Let's stay with sad news. It really is just a sad time today because we've heard that Derek Watts, a mainstay of Mnet's Carte Blanche news program for decades, has died. He was 74. He succumbed to cancer earlier today. Let's speak to one of Derek's former colleagues. Devi Sankaree Govender worked on Carte Blanche for many years before joining us here at eMedia. She now, of course, presents The Devi Show on eNCA, and she joins us in studio. Devi, thank you so much, and condolences. I know that you were not just former colleagues but friends as well, and you were telling me a little earlier that about 6 weeks ago you went and had a chat with him. Talk to me about that last meeting.
6 weeks ago, and I'd really been wanting to see him, and a few of us got together and we sat on his sunny porch at his house in Bryanston and spoke about life, love, and all the adventures we had together. I think the majority of us who knew him and worked with him are absolutely gutted. We knew he wasn't well, but I think when the messages came through today, there's still that feeling of absolute shock because we've lost an icon, not just a media icon in South Africa, an icon, because it was through his eyes that the majority of us saw a South Africa during the mid-80s when the country was burning and saw it truly for what it really was.
Yeah. Did he know at that time that his cancer was terminal, that he didn't have long?
My understanding was that he knew he wasn't well. As for the details, you know, when you meet friends in this kind of situation, you don't want to start prying into the details of their health. You just want to enjoy every single moment, and I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah, you had that moment to celebrate, because ultimately that's what life is. It's celebrating every moment that we have, because we can't say what the future holds.
No.
So Derek was at Carte Blanche right from the get-go, and it started in 1988?
Yeah, 35 years ago.
You joined sometime after that.
Yep.
Talk to me about your first impressions of Derek.
So I knew Derek like most people knew Derek on television, and I'd watched the first Carte Blanche when I was 15 years old, growing up in rural KwaZulu-Natal in a little village called Amzinto. And for the first time, I saw this thing called investigative television journalism. Never seen it before. Mid-80s, 1988, we forget that. You know, Caspers and Yalas were in townships, and it was a tough time. And I saw Derek, Ruda, Manu Padiachi, and I thought, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And of course, I then joined Carte Blanche in 2002. Pretty green around the gills, let me tell you, in both ways. I came from Durban, so big fish. Now I'm small fish, big pond. What I loved about Derek is he was the real deal. What you saw is what you got. How he was on camera, friendly, nice guy, that's exactly how he was towards this new girl that suddenly appeared, encouraging from the very beginning. And he always let me in on a secret because, you know, I love chasing the crooks.
We know this.
And the baddies, right? and from the beginning, he said, you're great at this. It's going to go really well. So encouraging. And he shared a secret with me. Most people didn't know that Derek didn't like confrontational interviews. He hated it. You know why, Sally? Because he's genuinely a nice guy. Not sure what that says about me, but he was genuinely a nice guy. And in a time when you're a young journalist and you're trying to also make your mark, here was somebody who was already an icon in your eyes, who was telling you that you were good enough. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and I think it's that sort of encouragement and mentorship for a young journalist that really creates a huge difference in an industry. Talk to me about some of the highlights of working with him. I mean, obviously from that first meeting, you're saying he was just amazing. Did you have some fun, crazy moments together?
So, as presenters, as you know, we always bypass each other. We don't actually see each other. And at Carte Blanche, we would never really see each other on shoots because each was running their own story. But the crazy moments and the happy moments for me was always the Christmas party. Derek was the life of the party. Always the happy guy. And so what people see on the advert is exactly how he was. He danced like that for us, you know, that kind of guy. And I think the weekly meetings, editorial meetings that we'd have, always happy to share his knowledge. Because with the confronts, it wasn't an easy thing for me to just fall into, but he would say, think about this, maybe you could do that. So he was very much that kind of uncle figure, not just for me, but for South Africans too. He was your Sunday uncle. and he was the uncle that you really saw life through. That's seriously a big deal. I'm choosing in this moment to celebrate his life. and to acknowledge the contribution he made to our country. He loved this country and he loved the people in it. And every single thing that he did on television stood for that. We're talking about somebody who set the trend. He showed somebody like me how to do it. So those are big things.
Those are amazing things. And you've grown into the investigative journalist, broadcaster, anchor that you are today, in part because of his early encouragement. I love that you call him the Sunday uncle. I was reading a tribute written by broadcaster David O'Sullivan just a few moments ago, and he was saying you couldn't go out in public with Derek.
No.
Because he was constantly waylaid by people, and he just loved chatting to them.
And let me tell you what Derek would do. It doesn't matter if a flight was waiting. He would stand there and he would have a conversation with anybody who said, Derek, I watch you on television, and he would take his time, which is why I'm saying he was the real deal. He was exactly the way he was. He truly cared about people.
Do you think that authenticity is the secret to his longevity in the industry? Because he only came off air recently.
Yeah. A couple of months ago. It is about being authentic, and the truth is television, it's through that lens. If you are trying to be somebody else, viewers see it immediately. They don't connect with you. And what I loved about Derek, and I tried to do myself, is to keep it real, keep it authentic, always be yourself, because the minute you try and be somebody else, when you slip, that's when we see the real Sally, the real Devi. That's exactly how he was. Easy. Wasn't he easy? When you watched him on TV, he was an easy kind of guy. Yeah,
that's true. But still didn't shy away from asking the tough questions.
Oh, no.
But did it in his way.
Did it in his way. In a way, I think that was quite civilized, in a way where he didn't take away anything from the other person he was confronting. And he always said to me, he said, we've got to remember that it doesn't matter who we confront. That person's wife or children, they still have to have a life on Monday morning after our story is over. And that's so true, because in the end, it's just a story.
Yeah.
And there are many stories that fill gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of his family, his wife Belinda and 2 children, Tyrone and Kirsten, must be a very difficult time for them. He was a very loving dad, wasn't he?
Very loving dad. He lived for his family. He did everything possible. And working on television, as you know, we don't really have downtime and spare time. And Derek was always on these amazing trips, the Himalayas. He's climbed just about every mountain. I was very glad that Derek was doing that and not me. And it was something that really gelled with his personality. And what we often don't see is the families behind these icons. And what we don't realize is while Derek was on television and doing everything that he needed to do, I'm thinking now of Belinda and the children and what they're feeling, because they shared this man with the rest of the country. And that's pretty special, and stood by him with every single thing that he did.
And you know, you talking about that reminds me of something that Jeremy Mansfield, who of course has also departed, another great broadcaster. We've lost so many. Xolani Gwala. It's just very, very sad. But Jeremy Mansfield once said to me, the hardest thing about being in this business is that when someone close to us dies, we have to, the show has to go on. And I know that it's a difficult day for you. So thanks for coming in, and thanks for sharing your memories, because I think it just helps remind us that there are truly great South Africans who've really made a wonderful
who really care about our country and led from the front. And we must continue to do that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for coming in. My condolences to you as well. Of course, that is my colleague Devi Sankaree Govender, host of the Devi Show here on eNCA, just reflecting on the extraordinary, remarkable, wonderful life of Derek Watts, who passed away today, aged 74, from cancer.